Weird Canadian shows for kids that you've never heard of. Hi guys, how's it going? My name is AussieTash. This video was suggested to me by one of my subscribers, so I'm really interested to see why some of these TV shows for kids that aired back in 1990s or 2000s were considered so weird and bizarre. But before we do, please remember to jump on, hit that subscribe button. That would really help me out. Okay, weird Canadian shows for kids you've never heard of that were bizarre and aired back in the 1990s, 2000s. Let's roll.
Welcome to Dial Up Digest. Starting off this list of 5 bizarre Canadian kid shows you've never heard of, we have Nanaland was a live-action preschool puppet show that aired from the years 2000 to 2006. It was about the curious adventures of a 3-year-old girl named Mona and her dog, Russell. I've always found the show to be very bizarre for so many reasons.
Yeah! You're the prince of dirt! Okay, no touching there.
For one, the creepy puppet designs. I mean, Mona was kind of cute, but she did sort of look like an alien with her green skin and beady black eyes. I found it strange how her grandmother had this bright orange, yam-shaped head and didn't look anything like her daughter and granddaughter.
She might have a point there. Grandma looked like a sweet potato. That's what we call yams in Australia. Sweet potato. And her grandchildren, well, they look like maybe apple aliens? I don't know. I love it. Kids love this sort of stuff. They like things that look different. They don't want to see things that are normal. I think this is cool. I love it.
I wasn't much of a fan of the cardboard cutouts either. I get that the show was meant for preschoolers, but I've always thought it just made the show look like a cheap elementary school play. The background music was an interesting choice. It sounded like something you'd hear on a tropical island.
Take me home,
the Honolulu sun.
Also, most of the time you couldn't really understand what Mona was saying.
Thank you, Nana. Oh, you are so welcome.
Number 2.
Man, give it a break. I think that is really, really cute. I'm trying to remember some of the stuff that we watched when we were kids. We couldn't understand them. And you know what? If you're a preschooler, is it really about understanding all the things they're saying? Or is it just looking at all the cool pictures and, you know, dancing and clapping your hands and stuff like that? Give it a break. It can't be as scary as that H&R Puffin Stuff show.
2 is Toy Castle. Toy Castle was a live-action show that aired from 2000 to 2006. This show had actors pretend to be toys that would come to life once the kids were asleep. I was actually afraid of the show when I was a kid, and that was because of these two. The dramatic white makeup was just too much, but it gets worse. This is Frida and Frederick. Don't they look like they belong in a horror movie and not a kid's show?
But, what if I look silly?
The show was also weird because the actors never actually spoke. Everything they did was narrated and the actors just acted.
Don't worry, he'll be back.
It was almost like watching a creepy Halloween play.
Improv, man. Actors are supposed to act. It just wasn't scripted. They just went out there, had their costumes and their makeup put on, and danced for the kids. Didn't they say it was filmed in front of a live studio audience? So they would have just went out there and just danced and clapped and made the kids dance and clap. That's the fun bit about it. I didn't see anything weird about that at all. Some of the characters looked a little bit creepy, but like I said, can't be as bad as that H&R Puffin Stuff. Oh, he was one creepy looking puppet. Yeah.
3, we have Uh-Oh was a wacky game show for kids that aired from 1997 to 2003. Everything about this show was bizarre. The object of the game was for your team to win the most number of points after competing in a variety of activities. These activities were messy and sometimes looked like Fear Factor for kids.
Hey, all you gotta do is make up your own little sardine and bean sandwich, eat it in 20 seconds, you get 50 big points. Are you ready? That's that. You're ready, buddy. Go!
The host always wore these crazy clothes and had an eccentric personality to match.
Then let's speed right over to our quizmaster Patricia.
There was also this character named the Punisher who was like a wild animal. This man would actually attack the kids in the audience, so he was kept locked up in this cage. Luckily, it only took one word to make him behave.
Punisher! Punisher! Control!
The Punisher's purpose in the show was to pour a bucket of slime onto the kids and, I guess, punish them. It's weird because the kid who gets slime poured over them didn't actually do anything wrong. They were punished after their partner answered a question wrong during the game.
Welcome to the game.
Oh my gosh, I love that. When did they say it was filmed? Back in the 2000s? Leave a comment. Were you on this show? Were you kids on this show? Did you watch this show? I think it's really, really cool. I loved it. It's a way to get the kids involved. I thought it was hilarious. Were they dunking in the toilet or they getting paint and slime and stuff poured on their head? We had sort of shows like that back in the 90s. I remember watching them on TV. Can't remember what they were called. Oh, here's something I'll let you know. I was on one of those TV game shows when I was about 12 or 13 called Total Recall. I didn't do very well. But yeah, I loved it. I think it's great. I don't think that's bizarre. I think it was really, really funny. And the kids, I reckon they would have loved it. They would have loved being in the studio audience. And man, they would have loved having slime poured on their heads.
Next up is PJ Katie's Farm.
Join the gang for adventures and fun. Katie's Farm is for everyone.
PJ Katie's Farm was a bizarre 90s improv show that featured plasticine animals.
Brother, come and embrace me, brother. No, Frank, this time you've gone too far. You are no piglet brother of mine.
Not gonna lie, I did like this show when I was a kid, and it was pretty popular, but looking back, it was pretty weird. Her facial expressions, random dances. You could tell the episodes were made up on the fly because she would sometimes forget things as she went along.
And the goose named, what did I call the goose again? Darcy. And
she was really into it though, which did make the show entertaining.
finally, Delilah the cow puts an end to all the shenanigans. What a great word. Shenanigans.
Man, kids love stories and improv. You make it up on the spot. If you forget things, it's gonna happen. Man, I think she's been a little bit too harsh on some of these shows. Kids, they love this sort of stuff. They love imagination. They love storytelling. If you can find a good story and you keep it flowing, they'll listen to it for ages. I loved this show. Hilarious.
And finally, we have Freaky Stories. Freaky Stories was a show about urban legends that originally aired from 1997 to 2000. The show was similar to Goosebumps, except the stories were animated and had two hosts. There was this gross-looking maggot named Maurice. He had no eyes and was always dripping with translucent green slime.
Open. Place. If you think this is disgusting, where do you see our next story?
When he talked, you could see the slime in his mouth, which I thought was especially gross. The other host was a roach named Larry, so in between the animated stories, there would be these random skits of these pests and their dysfunctional friendship. Every story was allegedly
It's a true story. It happened to a friend of mine.
The stories were actually really well written. The legends were often about outrageous, gross, and of course, freaky events that allegedly happened in real life.
Jennifer died 10 years ago this very day. I guess she'll keep coming back as long as she's needed.
not something to watch before bedtime. So, as you can see, the Canadian children's television scene in the 90s was bizarre. As weird and creepy as some of these shows were, they hold a special nostalgic place in the hearts of Canadian 90s kids.
Wow, some of them might have been a little bit weird, a little bit creepy, but back then, back in the 90s, that's what kids liked to watch. They liked to watch spooky. They liked to watch creepy. Young kids, they love storytelling. They love things that weren't the normal, that didn't look the normal. That's what inspired their imagination. That's how they learnt. I loved all these shows. Those two green little dancing things, they were a little bit scary. Can't remember what show it was from. But in general, I loved it. Please, leave a comment. Did you remember watching these shows when you were kids? Do you remember your kids watching them? Do you remember sitting watching them with your kids? Were they scared of any of them? Tell me your stories. I'd love to hear them. That was the video for today. It was a great suggestion, I reckon. If you liked it, jump on, smash the like button, leave a comment, and remember to subscribe. That would really help me out. Cheers from down under. Take care. Bye.